For the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by the Title Bout Championship computer game. Get yourself a copy right now. Visit TitleBoutBoxing.com. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by, you guessed it, Kenny Bear's Barbecue Rub and their newest, the Cajun Spice and All-Purpose Salt. Get yourself a bottle of each. As a matter of fact, get yourself 2 or 3 bottles of each. Visit SouthernGourmetSpice.com and make sure you tell them Billy C sent you and demand the Billy C discount. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Don Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy right now where you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. If you want a signed copy, just drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. It's our post-fight show. Canelo Triple G just ended. In case you missed it, Canelo Alvarez won a unanimous decision. He improves to 58 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws, 39 of his wins coming by knockout. And Triple G drops to 42 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. The 2 losses and the draw both come in at the hands of Canelo Alvarez. The way the judges scored it, well, one judge had it 116, 112. 2 had it 115, 113. I thought they were generous. I was pulling for Triple G, but I scored it 118 to 110. I gave 2 rounds to Triple G, rounds 9 and 10. I thought Triple G looked extremely old. He wasn't throwing punches. I mean, what can you say? It was a dominating, in my opinion, it was a dominating fight on Canelo's part. Triple G, I don't know what his game plan was. Maybe, the commentating was alluding to the fact they thought maybe he was trying to get into the later rounds. If he was, then he forgot to turn on the gas. But I think what we saw here is a classic 40-year-old fighter. And you know how sometimes people say, oh, well, they aged before our eyes. Well, I'm not so sure he aged before our eyes. I think he aged before he stepped into the ring. I just think that Triple G's career should be over if I'm Triple G. I mean, theoretically, he retires as a middleweight world champion. He's got nothing else left to prove. There's no sense in him going on. 40 years old. He's been in wars. His style of fighting. As far as Canelo, he avenged the Bivol loss, if you want to look at it that way, or got back to winning ways. And I thought he looked good. He was aggressive. There's times in Canelo's fights where he looks vulnerable, and he appeared like that in the last couple of rounds, but it didn't look like Triple G could do anything about it. That was the problem there. But in any event, overall, I thought it was a good performance for Canelo, and honestly, a bad performance for Triple G. And like I said, I think it was his age. As far as I know it was his age. As far as the rest of the card goes, it wasn't very good, to be honest with you. Coming live from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Beautiful venue. Love Las Vegas. Didn't love the card. Austin Ammo Williams kicked off the pay-per-view part of the card. He was supposed to have a signature fight against Kieran Conway. It got exciting at the end. It was a 10-round middleweight fight. Williams wins the fight with a unanimous decision. One judge had it 96-93. 2 had it 97-92. He's now 12-0 with 9 knockouts. And Kieran Conway drops his third fight. He's 18-3-1. In a super middleweight fight, Gabe Rosado, who I've always loved, he stepped in the ring with Ali Akhmedov, and Akhmedov improved to 19-1 with 14 knockouts by winning a unanimous decision. 100-90 is the way all three judges scored it. And in a pretty entertaining fight, Jesse Bam Rodriguez improved to 17-0 with 11 knockouts when he won a unanimous decision over Israel Gonzalez, who drops his fifth fight of his career. He's 28-5-1. The way the judges scored that: 118, 109, 117, 110, 114, 113. I thought that Gonzalez might have won the fight, to be honest with you. I mean, he seemed busier, but nonetheless, I didn't think it was a great card at all. And anticlimactic Triple G Canelo third fight. Night Owl's asking Bivol rematch for Canelo. I think so. I think that fight should happen. Knowing Canelo, I don't think he's gonna want to accept that he lost. If he doesn't fight Bivol, I think that says a lot for his thought of Bivol, regardless of what he would admit. Because remember, he says now that he lost the fight, but the night of the fight, he claimed that he got robbed. He thought he won the fight. Fat Man in the chat room saying Triple G looked old and slow. I agree. I agree with that. He did look old and slow. So what are you going to do? 40 years old, tough career. I mean, it is what it is. Where do they go from here? Well, I'm getting it. I was wondering. I sent links to my team here. Apparently, they didn't get it. But in any event, I thought he looked old and slow as well. So, I mean, I think Triple G should hang it up, in my opinion. I think Canelo should move on. And I think Canelo should definitely fight Bivol in a rematch. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. But I mean, what other fights are out there for him, really? I mean, if you think about it, he's the undisputed super middleweight champ. And, I mean, truthfully, the Bivol fight, I think that's a good one for him. What else is out there? I mean, he's not moving up to cruiserweight. I think he learned that again, but in any event, every bit of 40 years old, in my opinion, Triple G looked tonight. Canelo, let me ask you this. Do you think Canelo looked fantastic? I don't know. I thought he looked good, but I don't think he looked fantastic. I thought that he could have been a little more aggressive. Coaches in the chat room, he was dead wrong. I had the same score as Coach. He's saying 118, 110. That's what I scored it. 118, 110. I gave 2 rounds to Triple G, rounds 9 and 10. And I thought round 10 was extremely close. But I thought round 9 was close. Gave him 2 rounds. That's it. I was a little surprised at the scorecards. 115, 113 twice. But joining us now is Dax Khan. Dax, what's your thoughts of the fight?
Triple G aged, like I said. He, we've seen, you can remember, this is a guy who is 40 years old. He's fought, let's see, it was 15 months before he had the Murata fight. And then now was it April, May, June, July, August, September. So then there's another 5 months. I mean, he looked old in the Murata fight. He just, it just happens. It's 160 pounds. The reflexes weren't there. He's moving up in weight. Yeah, he looked good on the scales, but remember, and you've always said it yourself, that Triple G is a small middleweight. Like he's like Marvin Hagler, not built the same, but in terms of being a small guy, he's a career middleweight. And honestly, Canelo didn't look that good tonight either.
I didn't think he looked great, and I thought that the way Triple G looked, like when I opened up the show, I thought he looked. I don't think he aged before our eyes. I think he was already aged before he stepped in the ring. you know, he should hang him up. His reflexes weren't there. He just seemed like we were talking about in the um, prediction show that we did. To me, he was acting just like that. He was trying to do something, but his body wasn't reacting.
Yeah, that's. Hold on a second here.
In any event, we got Dax correcting something there, but my man John is in the chat room. 115, 113. He's saying, "What was that?" Yeah, me too. What was that? I have no idea. I scored the fight 110, 118, 118, 110, I should say. What'd you score it, Dax?
I gave Triple G, I think, 2 rounds.
Yeah, me too. That's 2 rounds.
I gave him 2 rounds, and again, it wasn't so much that what I was trying to say before I was having the microphone issues. I remember that I unplugged my headset. Is that Triple G is, as we always said on here, a small middleweight. Him, yeah, he came in heavier than Canelo, but remember that's his walking around weight, and then on top of the inactivity, so Triple G tonight he aged. He looked slow in the Murata fight, and Murata isn't a young fighter. Murata's in his, I think, 36, and he had been inactive. So tonight, I don't know what you can really say. All I can say is that Canelo is showing us one of two things, and there's been several people who made comments about it, especially even fighters, who are retired. Is that Canelo is starting to show where. One, he won't be drug tested ever since he failed that clenbuterol test, and then he waits people out. There was no reason to, and then a lot of people were bashing the fact, oh, well, Triple G would have never beaten Canelo. And it's like, then there was complaints about, like the scorecard tonight, I think they were a little bit generous to Triple G, but also remember on that pre-show, what did I say about the 2-point scoring for Canelo in Vegas?
Weisfeld?
What did I say about that?
I don't know.
Win or lose, it always seems to be 2 points. How possibly could you have had Bivol, the Bivol fight, 2 points? I mean, that if anything, that was a 118, 110 fight. But maybe tonight they just wanted to correct, the injustices done in the past to Triple G. I don't know. In terms of Triple G, he does have the middleweight title still. I believe that what he should do is step back down, make some defenses against, some guys that are, on the lower part of the top 10, and call it a day. I mean,
I think you should call it a day right now. Retire as a middleweight champ. He lost to
yeah,
Canelo. He got his payday. He obviously got a good payday. But 115, 113 by 2 of the judges, I thought was, I think you said it best. Generous. Yeah. Well, I mean, I found myself trying to find a round to give to Triple G, and I couldn't find one till the 9th. So. Yeah, there's nothing left for him to prove, Dax. He doesn't have to fight anymore.
No, he doesn't. And that's the thing, where people are. I was thinking about the last time when we did the pre-show, saying to myself, Triple G didn't turn pro until what was that, 2006, I believe it was, and because I was actually at his pro debut, he beat Gregory Proska up at the Turning Stone, and he was really not much of a draw. But at that point in time, there was a very scary guy that Triple G more or less developed into, who left the sport due to a back injury. But the same guy that knocked out Daniel Jacobs. And what a sensational fight could you imagine if Dmitry Pirog would have stood around for a little bit versus Gennadiy Golovkin? It would have been as good as any middleweight fight in history. Pirog was a little bit older, but never before had the American promoters seen a Russian or Eastern European fighter, especially at middleweight, be able to move, punch, dodge the way that Pirog did. And then once Gennadiy Golovkin started fighting more in the States and he started rushing through and going past all these names, promoters, let's be honest, you were a promoter yourself. Promoters, if they see that somebody is out there destroying people, you're not putting your top name in there. That's why he was stuck with that WBA regular title. And that is why that we've seen so many fights that really Triple G should have been involved in. But boxing unfairly weighted him out. And yeah, I do believe that this is the time for Gennadiy Golovkin to have one defense against somebody in the lower tier and then go out on a win.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Canelo? What should Canelo do next?
As far as Canelo is the same way. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Canelo fan, you know that. But lately, he has shown very much to be like that guy that you love to hate. And they seem to, yes, every time he kind of pushes himself to what seems like greatness, they also seem very calculated. And Canelo is more now the money machine. It's even openly spoken about being the money machine. And there's been so many top guys. I'm not talking about guys that want a payday. I'm not talking about certain opponents, like even a Billy Joe Saunders or something like that. That's not in his category. But there's guys like David Benavidez who've been begging for him. Remember, a year before Dmitry Bivol faced him, before that fight was made, Dmitry Bivol said in one of his post fights, I think it was after Joseph Jr., he'll drop down to 168 or whoever he faced right after Canelo won that lineal title. And he'd move down now. So now really the pressure's on Canelo. What are you going to do? Are you going to dare to really be greater than what you are? You have a lot of blemishes on your record, as does every all-time great. But yep, you won a belt against the declining Sergey Kovalev at 175. You step back up. You thought you were going to do it against Dmitry Bivol. You failed, and you failed horribly. How that was a 2-point scorecard across the board, gosh only knows. But Chad Dawson, remember, he dropped down to 168 to fight Andre Ward. He loses horribly. Andre Ward stepped up. Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones both went all the way up to the light heavyweight division. So Canelo has a choice now. Either you fight the top names at 168 and you win decisively, or you step up to 175 and you once again go after one of the top names, and then just show, win, lose, or draw, you are willing to do whatever it takes to cement your legacy. Because right now, Canelo, more or less, man, I won't say so much it's him, the team around him is letting Canelo's legacy be blemished. He's had a lot of criticism over the last couple of years, and this Triple G fight should have happened before the Bivol fight.
I think Canelo. I think he needs to fight Bivol next for him. I think he is going to seek him out. I just think that that's the fight for him. But and it will be a money fight, and it's not going to be an easy fight. But anyway,
it'd be, if it happens 100 times, 99 times, it's an easy fight for Dmitry Bivol.
Alex joins us. Alex, thoughts on the fight, my man?
Good Sunday morning, gentlemen. I enjoyed it. I thought I think my prediction was pretty wrong, but I mean, it was not the thriller I was hoping for. Bo Holyfield 3, and I think, by far it was, I was hoping for the Empire Strikes Back and we got the Return of the Jedi. It was just, there was maybe 3 really freaking barn burner rounds. And the rest is what we kind of expected. Triple G he looked his age. And even though, the first 2 minutes of round 1, he was throwing the jab with the pace that I think he needed. And then he got countered. And I think, to Canelo's credit, one of the things that I really liked is there was a couple of times there where he was throwing and landing a jab that was very, it's weird. He has these, you can tell he's a student of the game, because there's times where he has these Tyson-esque, not that he's as powerful, but he closes the distance and he has the explosiveness of the Tyson jab and that Tyson right hook to the body. And that's fun to watch. I had an enjoyable time. Every fight's a story. This was not a thrilling story, but it was still an interesting story. And I think, they had an interesting trilogy, the two of them.
Yeah, I didn't think that this fight was exciting at all. There was a couple of rounds that were, but like I said earlier, and Dax and I were just talking, I think Triple G, it wasn't a case of him aging before our eyes. He aged before he stepped in the ring.
Yeah, that maybe the camp was rough. And I think, well, he's 40. And I think I did see, I think maybe it was Eric Raskin who had tweeted saying that if you saw the Murata fight, this really shouldn't have been a surprise. And I think that's, as much as I thought, he handled Murata, and the guy's a young kid. But I think one of the things about that fight, it took him a while to heat up. And I think that's what we saw tonight. And when it takes you a while to heat up against a badass like Canelo, you're pretty far down the hole. And that's where he was tonight. He couldn't come back out.
Dax, I thought after the 3rd round, it looked to me, with the exception of the 2 rounds I gave Triple G, it looked like he was fighting to go 12 rounds.
He was. It's just, it happens. It happens to all the greats. We've seen it. At least he finished on his feet. Can say that. I just think more or less there were moments, or a lot of moments in that fight. It kind of reminded me of Shane Mosley versus Floyd Mayweather, when, remember, Shane Mosley gets Floyd in trouble and buckles Floyd and he jumps on him. And in our heads, we're thinking about the Margarito fight where Mosley but that was the last time Mosley was able to pull the trigger, because he wasn't able to follow up in the Mayweather fight after hurting him, and not comparing the 2 fights or the fighters. I'm just saying that's more or less what seemed to happen with Triple G. He would have a little moment of success, but then he couldn't put anything together. He couldn't put any combinations together, which as the old saying goes, he just could not pull the trigger anymore. And that's what happens. As far as Triple G's career, like I stated, he should just go back down to middleweight and fight somebody like Arislandi Lara or maybe Carlos Adames or something like that, and then go out with a win. There's even if he won tonight, okay, and he was 5 years or 6 years younger, he's way too small for that division. There's some big guys in that division. So, really, what was he going to do other than say, I won the belts?
Alex, my thought on that, just to counter Dax, is that, he's already the middleweight champ. He didn't lose his titles tonight. He was challenging for the super middleweight. He doesn't have to fight again. I don't think we need to see him in the ring again. He's not going to get any better. And I think you're going to see the same version of him. And I don't think he has anything left to prove. As a matter of fact, the way he was acting and responding, I'm surprised Canelo didn't jump all over him. Now I wonder, is Canelo slipping?
Well, I think, to me, I think that what Canelo wants is the winner of Bivol Zurdo. He wants that Bivol rematch, which to me, I don't think that's the way to go.
I do. I want to see that.
I think Bivol beats him
That's
every
what
time.
Dak says. That's what that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I think
but
I
but but I mean, that's what Canelo should try to challenge himself. That's all. That's
well,
what
yes,
great
but I
fighters
think
do.
he could also rule the 168-pound roost for a while.
Who's left in that division?
We got what's his name, Gilberto Ramirez. I mean, David Benavidez.
That's
Is
a tough fight for
be a
Canelo.
fun
He's so
fight.
big.
Yeah,
Benitez is so big.
you get Benavidez, and then you have that that other Russian fighter. And if we weren't talking about it, wasn't so darn late, I'd be able to remember his name. You know what I mean? If it wasn't Wednesday in Japan right now, gosh, what's his name? It's it's Baznikan or something like that. He's a tremendous fighter. For Canelo, there's some challenges for Canelo out there. Dave Morrell in a few fights is going to be somebody that Canelo should take seriously. And Canelo himself, I really don't know. That's a valid point, as we stated in the pre-fight show. What, if anything, did the Bivol loss do to him mentally? Because we can sit here and, debate and go back and forth on the facts on what moments and who did this and who did that. But let's be honest, going by looking at our eyes, that was a one-sided fight. Remember, there was a moment in that seventh round where Canelo actually looked scared and Bivol was just jabbing him, and Canelo had no answers for him. And so, as far as Canelo goes, with the promotional issues that he has, the splitting with a trainer, and all the money he has, as I always say, once you have a bank account that's 10 figures, getting punched in the face for a living kind of loses its appeal.
Hmm.
And that could be the sake, and again, there would be no shame if Canelo fought somebody in the lower top 10 and he retired, because you know what? If anything, actually, I'd have to say I would encourage that, due to the fact that Canelo is in his early 30s, and we love nothing more than to see a fighter come in, make a legacy for themselves, make money for themselves, and retire intact. And Canelo would be able to do that.
Yeah, I think mentally he's going to want Bivol again. Coaches in the chat room saying, no, Bivol's going to fight B2B. No way. If I'm Bivol, of course, and if Canelo wants the rematch, of course I make that fight. That's a huge money fight for both of those fighters. And B2B is just a dangerous wacko. He's who wants to get in the ring with him? I mean, really. But
He's a monster. He's a beast.
Yeah.
Golovkin did say that he intends to keep fighting. I stayed for the interviews, and he said he will continue at middleweight, where he is still the champion. And I think there's this guy that's really fun to watch, Demetrius Andrade. Have you ever seen him?
He's an exciting force.
That's a fight
he moved up to super middleweight. Oh, well, don't tell me he's going to fight Canelo. Yeah.
But he's isn't he the WBO middleweight champion still?
No, I thought he just moved up, didn't he?
And Dmitry Bivol has been, Demetrius Andrade has been talking. Alex Firipalli is literally half the man he used to be, and he'll still call him Dan Raphael. And you know what I mean? Because that's all he does. He talks. He's on autopilot. And the last thing I would want to see is him getting a fight with Triple G and then going around and bragging about how he beat Triple G, because Demetrius Andrade hasn't gone after anybody when they were in their prime, dangerous, and they were willing to fight him. And Joe DeGuardia himself will tell you that.
I was mostly kidding, but he is one of the guys that's a top middleweight. And it's a fight that, in terms of brain damage, it's not as dangerous for Golovkin at this stage. If you make a claim like that.
To look at an older fighter that everybody thought was done, and then all of a sudden he seemingly had another career after 40. Bernard Hopkins, was a different fighter. You could see that he had so much left, and he proved it. I didn't see that from Triple G tonight. I didn't see it in his previous fight either, like Dax alluded to earlier. And Murata wasn't that young, you know. So I think Triple G needs to hang him up. He should call it. It's a Hall of Fame career. You know, his only 2 losses and draw is at the hands of one man, Canelo Alvarez. So, in my opinion, Canelo needs to.
And Canelo himself, right now, if he retired, is a Hall of Famer. So
No, I agree with that.
no,
But
my
Yeah,
point
but
on that is that if your only losses and a draw is to a fellow Hall of Famer.
yeah, but no, but I think that Canelo, the type of person he is, and what he says he wants to do for the sport, I think he'll seek out the Bivol fight, and who knows after that.
What
But
did you guys think of the Bam Rodriguez fight, Gonzalez fight? I thought was really good, and it was strange that the crowd wasn't too into it, but it's still, people are still walking in because I really enjoyed that fight. It was a test for Rodriguez. I think Kenny Bayless, man, did he miss a low blow, and that was one of the things that was interesting to me because up in Canastota this year, they had that big referee panel. I think they did it a couple of years ago too, but they had quite a few referees all answering questions at the same time. And pretty much, I think it was unanimous that if they don't see it, they will not call it. And that was the only thing that I could account for how ridiculous that was. Is that maybe Bayless just didn't see it, was not looking there, whatever. So he didn't feel confident to call it a low blow because that was absolutely a low blow. And he really blew that call.
the other two were borderline, to be honest with you. And
When
the one
replay though, they were below the Julio.
they were, but I thought that that the one he didn't call was the worst, and the one that the point got deducted was borderline, you know. And that fight, it was an entertaining fight, but I'm not so sure about the scorecards on that. I actually thought Gonzalez squeaked out that fight.
It was very close.
And to see the scorecards, they were kind of crazy. 118, 109. One judge had it, 117, 110, and one had it probably the most realistic score, 114, 113.
Yeah,
in terms of the low blows, go back and check Andre Ward or Sergio Mora's Twitter feed, because Sergio Mora decided that he was going to take a still shot of that low blow and post it up and say how it reminded him of Andre Ward. And Andre Ward just really came back and said, that's nothing like me. You were nothing like me. Your career was nothing like me because you're not me, son. Right. And I was like, wow, they really got to a beef over that. And then as far as the Andre thing, stating earlier in turn, he's another guy that I'm not even sure what's left for him. I mean, Triple G has 2 of the belts, and then Charlo has another belt, and those guys have been calling Triple G out for quite some time. And I think those 2 guys should face each other. Triple G face somebody on the lower tier, and then call it a day. And now, as for the Bam Rodriguez fight, that's a fight he needed. I mean, this is people. What I didn't understand is people didn't realize that Gonzalez has a deeper resume. He's challenged for world titles 3 previous times. I think the first time was Yerwin Akas, and it was like 10 rounds TKO, just out of pure exhaustion, where he got knocked out. And then Kid Yafi and Roman Gonzalez, they both beat him by decision. This is something that Gonzalez needed to experience in terms of being in control, and then having his opponent come back, and then having to adjust. Yes, he's running on a high right now, and the media and his promoters are building him up based off his 2 wins, his back-to-back wins over Carlos Kudras and Rungvisai. But they're faded ex-champions. So Gonzalez He just Gonzalez, he is the type of guy that is not there for a paycheck, and he is the type of guy that will either beat you or he will make you better. There's nothing in between. And you could have made a strong case that he did win that fight tonight, but Bam Rodriguez and his team, when they go back and they look at this, they're going to realize what they need to do and what adjustments they need to make if they expect to get in there with the likes of Francisco Rodriguez Jr. or Andrew Maloney, Joshua Franco, and able to gain a little bit more of that type of experience so they can go in there and face a Roman Gonzalez or Juan Francisco Estrada or Kuzoko Ioka.
Right. Well,
yeah, they were talking as if that that would be his next fight, is
the winner of that fight.
The winner of that, which I think that might be a mistake.
It might be a little too soon. The thing with him is that he's a young fighter and he shows a lot of promise. I do think that the fight tonight was definitely an educational fight against Gonzalez. And when you see a fighter fight, when they go to that level and they fight and perform the way Rodriguez did tonight against Gonzalez, that's when you kind of want to get another Gonzalez type fighter and put him in with him so that he can dominate. Because if he can't dominate, he's not ready to take on the winner of Estrada, Chocolito. I mean, he's just not ready, But in any event,
one of the things that I just thought that was interesting, that maybe, and I don't want to defend ridiculous scorecards, but power is always something that you kind of miss in the two dimensions of television. So maybe it was Rodriguez, because I definitely think Rodriguez was the one who was landing heavier punches. Maybe there was more of an impact of that.
Over 100 more.
Yeah, if you're ringside, maybe seeing that up close, that definitely has a much more a bigger impact when you're in the room with that.
But you see, that's always been the age-old question with scoring. How many lighter punches equal a heavy punch?
Yeah, it's always
you could look at a fighter that, let's say, was landing jabs all night long, just like a piston, and he steps in the ring with a Rodriguez who lands 2, 3, 4 power shots during the round. Is it enough to win the round? Sometimes, I mean, look at the two fighters in the Canelo Triple G fight. I mean, Triple G was busted up.
The second fight, there were so many rounds in the second fight where it was like that, where they would land a similar amount of punches, and one guy's maybe were a little heavier, and you'd be doing this strange sort of, punch math. Whose punches were more? How many punches from this guy do you divide into this guy's? And who landed more, and that's what makes it a subjective sport.
Well, that's when aggressiveness
comes one of those things. Yeah, aggressiveness. And I think we saw that in the Ammo Williams fight. Sometimes it's ineffective aggressiveness, and I think for a long time these announcers were really not too good. And
you know who they were? They were the two guys. They were on different groups, but they were from that stupid DAZN boxing show. Yeah, those two guys.
Oh, well, Grisham, I thought tonight, mamma mia, some of the things he came out with, there was just a lot of things that they said.
What drove me nuts, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and I put on our Twitter feed somewhere, and they actually sat there and said that this trilogy ranks up there with Ali, Frazier. It ranks up there with Pacquiao, Marquez. It ranks up there with Gaddy and Ward.
Yeah, I think.
I'm just like, really?
I think he meant
significance. It's not even a trilogy.
I think he just meant the significance of it. I couldn't have possibly meant the quality of it because But
no, they said significance.
But one of the things I was going to say about that Williams fight is that there was a lot of, in the early rounds, he was just coming forward and he wasn't throwing enough. He throws big bombs rather than jabbing his way in. And I thought that Conway, at least early, I thought he was pretty effective in catching him with short shots. on his way in. And then once he bloodied his nose, the whole thing changed.
Yeah,
Even Williams is a work in progress. I mean, he was smothering his own shots the way he would come in so aggressively.
Well, that's what happens when you feed guys that you're able to knock out so quickly. It becomes, that's the way you fight. But you're right. When he got busted up, I mean, that was the end of him fighting. What was it, 3 or 4 rounds, right? He was just. I thought he was going to get knocked
like
out.
The 7th, maybe that it broke, and then blood was coming from both nostrils, which tends to mean it's broken. So
I got two more things, guys. One, it looks like. Remember, we were talking about this year, and it seems like they're making some good fights. We're talking about now, potentially Fury and AJ. Well, it was announced late last week. Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Crawford, apparently are going to be fighting November 19th. Contracts haven't been signed, but verbally, both teams have agreed. What's your thoughts on this, Dax?
My thoughts on it is I would love to see it, but we've gone through this too many times. So
with this fight,
we've just gone through this too many times in this sport over the last decade for these big, huge fights that we've been dying to see, and the teasing and the teasing and the teasing. So when there's an announcement that both guys have signed on paper, then I'll be excited. I'm sorry. Fool me once, fool me twice, that's fine. After that, I'm just a fool. And Mayweather and Pacquiao did that to all of us.
Mayweather did it. Alex, what's your thought? What's your thoughts on the potential? I gotta do it. I have to. What's your thoughts on the potential Spence Crawford November 19th?
I'm thrilled. I'm very excited. However, I think there's a danger in getting too excited, because this was an exciting week, and let's be honest.
Hey, basically what you're saying is you can't have too much excitement in one.
This week was like a boxing boner-inducing week, and then to hear that news, it was like another boner-inducing. And as they say, to go more than 4 hours with a boxing boner, you should really consult your physician.
Yeah.
So I do think that, like Dax said, and personally, because I did retweet it and get very excited, maybe I should have waited until one of the fighters said it, because it's still not official. And it is one of those things where it's like, they've been talking about this fight happening for a long time, and it's really sad. Hall of Famer Nigel Collins tweeted something the other day with a picture of Crawford and said, "This is the best fighter of a generation who is literally dying on the vine."
Well, according to ESPN, the negotiations are pretty much done.
What is there to negotiate? Jesus Christ! It's
the purse split, and Errol Spence is going to get the bigger portion of it. And Al Heyman is taking all the credit for that. They logistically they need to split the pay-per-view, how they're going to do it. But Terrence Crawford basically said, in true Terrence Crawford fashion, I don't care about the split. I want to fight Errol Spence to prove who the best welterweight in the world is. And I believe this fight will happen. I didn't think it was going to happen this year, but I'm thrilled to death. The last thing I want to mention before I get in my feety pajamas is we were talking about movies, right? We were talking about movies. Okay. And the one that slipped my mind that is also a very good one that a lot of people may never have heard of. It was called The Ring, and it came out in 1952, stars Lalo Rios as a Mexican fighter. Basically, the way the story is this kid was getting picked on, a Mexican kid getting picked on, and basically cleaned up a bunch of guys, kicking their butt. And who happens to see him but a promoter turns him pro, and it's a pretty interesting story. The Ring, is another one. Final thoughts, fellas.
I like the. I thought you meant the one with Naomi Watts. I really like that one.
No, I'm talking 1952. Not that.
The one he's talking about isn't even about boxing.
I know. I know.
It-
Final
it-
thoughts on the fight.
this is
Tonight.
what happens when you get past 40 and it's past 130.
Yeah.
My final thoughts. I enjoyed it, even though it was certainly not as exciting as I hoped. Anywhere near as exciting as I hoped. There were moments that was fun. I think Canelo, solidified himself as his argument for being one of the best in the sport. I kind of lean towards Usyk though, but because to me that was unfinished business, and he proved that maybe it's a different fight 2 years ago, but whatever, they fought. Now it's over, and he left no doubt. I think Canelo, to me, he is definitely one of the top 3 guys in the sport. In a way, Usyk and Canelo, and he, like I said, there's moments where I thought that jab was just, to me, it reminded me of prime Mike Tyson, like when he was just busting up Terrell Biggs with that jab. It's really a beautiful, explosive, distance closing shot. And I thought tonight was going to be about Golovkin's jab, and to me, the Canelo jab was much more exciting.
Dax, final thoughts. I know you weren't excited for the fight to begin with.
No,
You're certainly not loaded with energy tonight after the fight. Is there anything that sticks out?
What does stick out to me was the post-fight moments, and when you think about Canelo going over there and all the hype in the building, put everything, take the fan hat off and stuff, and think about, this history part of what those two have gone through together. It was great to see the fact that it ended on a good note. Nobody walked out of the ring storming out, complaining, and that in terms of the fight being boring itself, you almost wonder if Canelo coming off a loss, Triple G being inactive, because I do believe that there was times that Canelo could have stepped up on the gas, and you did see in the middle rounds where Triple G was severely faded. It was almost like, I can just go on to this and I can win this fight without having to go out there and knock him out. Now that may sound off, but it's respectful. I mean, there's been champions in the past who have done that. So I have enough respect for this guy, and I have built enough respect for this man that I'll go out there and I'll box them, but I'm not going to do anything to embarrass him.
Well, my final thoughts. First of all, I think that he was trying for a knockout and he didn't get it. But I did agree. I do agree with you. I like the sportsmanship at the end. I think that Canelo, I think that he gets tired in fights and he recovers quickly. And I think we saw that tonight where he did run out of gas a couple of times, but he camouflages it very well. Those couple of rounds that it looked like Triple G was catching up with him and maybe the tide was going to turn. I think that was just a case of Canelo taking a breather. I think he was in control of the fight the whole night. Like I said, I don't know what the judges were seeing. I think they were ringside. I wasn't, but I scored the fight 118-110. I thought it was an easy win for Canelo, and I hope that
we don't see a fourth.
No, we'll never see a fourth. But I hope we don't even see Triple G in the ring again. But in any event, I appreciate everybody joining us after this fight and staying awake with us, which we barely can do right now. And we will be here. We will be back on Wednesday.
We're gonna watch a movie.
I was thinking about going to make some lasagna. We'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll be talking more about boxing. So until then, ciao, baby.
All right.